Welcome everyone to today's episode of CV and Caffeine. Today we've got Mark and Miriam with us, and we will be discussing the life story, all the ins and outs. Both of these fine folks are leverage instructors, so they have a very nuanced approach and experience to bring to the conversation, having taught the class to others and also have done the actual hiring themselves. So, Miriam, let's start with you. Give us a little background. Tell us who you are, where you are, how long you've been with the organization, and why the Leverage series is so important to you.
Well, thank you for having me. Yes, I love the Leverage series. I started with Keller Williams back in 1999 as a new operating principal of a market center in Michigan. And at that time, we had a process when I was hired for that position that was called getting the book. And it's interesting because today we're talking specifically about the life story and getting the book. There's a lot of comparisons between those two events. But I started teaching Recruit Select, which was the system that we used prior to CV. And there's a lot of similarities. We adapted it very closely. But I think I worked with Bain Henyon at that time, who was the developer of Recruit Select with the company. And I want to say that was probably in the early 2000s, 2004-ish, 2000, yeah, around 2004. And so I was very blessed to have the opportunity to work with him and then eventually to teach it. And when we changed the system into the CV process, we learned then how to, modify it a little bit. We made it a lot easier for the person who's actually you can come into career visioning. I think Mark will agree. And if you just follow the plan, you can't really go wrong. So in Recruit Select, you had to be a little bit more studious and understand a lot more about the ins and outs of it than you do in the CV process. So it's been an incredible tool. And in my position now, I went from being operating principal in several market centers to being a regional director and now to a regional operating principal. And I can tell you that it's a big part of what we do in that role. To be really good at this process gives you so much leverage in the role that we're in. So it's a big part of what we do.
Fabulous. Mark, bounce the same
So
question.
yeah, much like Marion, I started a little bit later. I started with the company in 2003 in Cleveland, Ohio. I started with the company as a team leader, and over the years, and by the way, when I was hired in 2003, the um, the process was called career visioning actually, and we
Mhm.
took the caliper. This is before Recruit Select, and
Yeah.
one of the key parts of that process was the life story. So it actually lived and breathed prior to Recruit Select, and then as Marion said, Recruit Select came along, and then later back to the career visioning with the KPA. But yeah, I've held a number of different roles. I've been a team leader for 5 years. I became an operating partner back in 2008. Started a sales business. I was a little backwards. I started to sell after 5 years with the company. Did that for, I still remained licensed, not very active with that. And then in 2000, I want to say 2011, I became an area director, and right around 2013 became the regional director of the Carolinas. I've held that role ever since. I've had the opportunity to coach regions. I was a divisional leader for a moment. I was a regional operating partner. I'm a master faculty member. I've had an opportunity to touch an awful lot of it. But the career visioning process, it's interesting that we're on this call today because I completed my business plan for last night for 2026. And as I've done the last 3 years, I will take 24 people at a minimum through CV next year. In
Wow.
fact, I'm in the midst of CV right now with a mega agent looking for a leadership opportunity. That taking him through the life story, although I've known the person for a number of years, was really revealing. On Friday, I'm excited. I've got a young 28-year-old who's taking over mom's business that we're starting CV with
Awesome.
because he's already made his first bad hire. And I kind of laughed and I went, we're going to go through a process. He goes, what's that? I go, you're going to take the KPA and we're going to start CV. So Friday morning, I'll spend 2 hours with him. I won't get to life story yet. That'll be session 2 with him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's lovely. Wow.
Awesome. And so let's just jump in to like a typical question that I think some of our newer viewers may ask. You know, why why the life story? Why is it so special? Why can't I just say to the person, tell me about yourself? What would you say to the person that, says, what why go through this process? What am I listening for? How is it so different than just saying, tell me about yourself? That's a big question.
I'll let ladies go first.
Okay. Well, you don't want to just ask them, tell me about yourself, because they're going to, first of all, they'll stop. There'll be a lot of thought into that. What do I want to tell you about me?
Mhm.
And we want to guide them through the process. So by asking them to start at a specific date, a specific time, usually we take from the time that you graduated. Now, sometimes they'll say they'll go from graduating high school, sometimes they'll go from graduating from college, wherever they go, usually I let them go with that. But what I'm looking for particularly is their motivation, because motivation is the fuel to their ability to do the job. And so as they tell me, okay, what have you done since you left high school or college? And as they start to tell me their story, it gets to certain time periods when I'll say, oh, okay, so that was a big event, right? A big event would be I got my first job, or I got married, or I moved to a different country. These big events, as they take place, you kind of stop them there and then you say, oh, wow, so tell me about that. What happened there? And what I'm looking for is what was the driving force behind that big event that happened? Because at the end of the day, if this person's the right match for the job that I want them to do, I want to be able to match that motivation. I want somebody to come into the job who's excited about it every day, because I can see if they are a match on paper. But the thing that I cannot give them or teach them or show them is to have that motivation. What
Mhm.
puts that drive into the person? And that's what I'm looking for in their life story. I want to identify the things that drive them, that are making them excited, that I want to see them light up when they tell me about their first job or the first mistake they made in their job. I want to see the expression that they went through. And I want them to reveal to me what goes on in their head as they navigate through their life story.
Yeah. I think, ditto to that. And in my mind, I'm looking for a track record of success. And when failure occurred, how did they recover from that? So I have a couple biases, and I openly would admit them to you all, and that is early on in life, I'm looking for people that made their own way in a lot of respects, that may not have had it quite so easy. Kids that in college paid their way, or went to night school and worked full time. I'm looking for what kind of work ethic do I think this person has? Because I've already asked them all the thought process interview, from the thought process. I've already established certain things about some of their experiences, and then I'm looking for, did some of those experiences from thought process actually line up with what I'm hearing in the life story? But I love that you said motivation, and we kind of tie that in a bow with when you go to the motivation interview. But at the same time, if they've got a track record that I then can support with references, that coupled with the fact that they're a high match, and I think we've talked about this before. The minute someone sees a KPA and I get a phone call and they go, "Oh, I've got the perfect candidate," or I found my team leader, or I found my
They're a
MCA,
match.
I found them. They're 100% match. Uh, so what did they do before? I have no idea what they did before, but yeah, they're 100% match. But I'm looking for that work ethic that they went kind of above and beyond, exceeded expectations. I think people that have bounced around a bit. Um, I did that early on in my career. I bounced 3 or 4 times, but every time I bounced, I received a better opportunity. So I don't look at that as necessarily being negative. Now, maybe later on, I'm kind of looking for some stability too in their world. And we're all human. I mean, nobody led a perfect life. So if they give me a perfect life story, I become a little suspect, actually.
I think if I could just add to that, it's so true what you said about when they've had negative things happen and how they have reacted to that. Because um, as 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 Mark said, we nobody has a perfect life. Things go wrong for everybody, and how they deal with that is going to tell you what's going to happen when they have situations in the world that you're bringing them into, because same is going to happen there. Everything isn't going to be perfect, and how are they going to react to it? And many people who have, I think the worry is if they've, had their hand held so much through their journey in life that now you're looking for them to be totally um, independent, and they're going to be looking constantly for too much support. We want to support people, and we have an incredible system through CV to support them. But our ultimate goal is that they operate independently in this role, right? We take them through the 30 days where we're attached to the hip. We take them to 60 days where we're starting to let go a little bit. And at the end of that 90 days, we want you to be able to do this job on your own and make good decisions. And if you've never had to make good decisions, and if you've never had just the world come crumbling down on you, well, we don't know how you're going to get up. And it's not so much that you fall down, it's how you get up that matters, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, Mary, and I was actually telling somebody today, I was in a market center with a large group, and we were kind of talking about career opportunities in the company and so on. And I said, when you get the opportunity to work with Gary at all, which I had a brief moment there where I did. Gary doesn't want to manage you. You need to be a self-managed individual, and quite candidly, I hate the word management. If someone has to use the word management with me, it's like, ooh, no. I want somebody that I can lead, that wants to take it on for themselves. And so, in that life story, I'm going to see some of that. I'm going to see where they, went and took on additional responsibility, probably above and beyond even the job description they may have had at that point.
Yeah. I think that's one of the first lessons that I learned in my role when I left Michigan to come to California. I was very quickly told, this is your job, not my job. You go do it. It's like, oh, okay.
So through the life story, you're looking for them to reveal information that would lead you to have an opinion on a pattern of their behavior, so that you can see, will that carry through when
Yeah.
you hire them? Um,
History is the best, the
right.
very best thing that we can see to tell us how somebody is going to perform is to see how they have previously
Yeah.
performed. So this is
Which
our opportunity to find that out.
Absolutely.
there's an old adage, what's the greatest one's past performance will be the greatest indication of their future performance. And that's what you're looking for, and that's what you're going to find. And I just want to add one more thing. Back when I was taught to do this, we did it in colors. I've seen a
Yeah.
lot of KPA. I've seen a lot of life stories lately that people have gone away from the flip chart and colors and all that. There's a step-by-step process in terms of how to position people and how you do this. And as much as I don't care for doing it on Zoom, I'm still doing it on a white screen on Zoom where they're seeing what I'm writing, and I'm doing it year by year or event by event in different colors, because each one of those reveals the next chapter in their life. And when you kind of just keep the process and start writing things, you're you're beginning to check a box. Don't do that.
Mm.
Follow the model.
Yeah, I love the flip chart and I love using the colors. I wouldn't be able to do it without the colors. I'm afraid I'm totally uh, totally scripted when it comes to that. But
Yeah.
it does help you because you can stand back and you can look at certain words now start to stand out. You know, words like opportunity. People will say, well, I got this opportunity. And when you stand back and you look at that flip chart, now I can start circling how many times they said opportunity. That tells me right there, opportunity is really important to you. And I want opportunities to be important to the person because I want them to be looking to be massively successful and to have more opportunities that success brings them.
As instructors, when you're in front of a room of people that are possibly learning, going through the leverage series for the first time, and they ask you, how do you do this? Like, how do I build my confidence? What are some of the typical questions you get from new people that are going through the leverage series for the first time and haven't done a life story yet?
Mhm.
Do it. It just pick up the paper and follow the instructions and just, do it. And here's the thing, if you're a little uncomfortable, go find somebody that you know and say, hey, I want to take you through the process,
Right.
help you and I.
I
Um,
think also too, like you said, it's here's the process, follow it. But you can also say to them, if I'm a bit nervous, then some of the questions that we ask are questions that we would never in a million years ask somebody if we didn't have a plan to ask them. We'd have to be a
Mhm,
bit pushy anyway. And
mhm,
now we don't have to be pushy because we have this system, this is our model, and I'm just following it. So at the wonderful gift of career visioning, and certainly as it gets to the life story, is that there is this pattern. So you can almost sort of agree with them that this is a little odd, but this is
mhm,
what we do because it's our system. And it will just reveal to you a beautiful experience of getting to know somebody at a different level. And I have no idea how many I validated, but I can tell you that I've never, ever, ever had anybody tell me at the end of it that they didn't like it, that it wasn't a great experience for them, they didn't enjoy it, and that they didn't learn things about themselves, which is pretty cool, really.
mhm.
yeah.
Were you going to add something before, Mark?
I was just going to say when you're as an instructor and when you're doing it, I mean, I literally do the bring someone up and take them through the mini life story to demonstrate to them just simply how easy it is to follow the process. So I think it's important as an instructor here again, from time to time we're put in situations when timing isn't great or whatever. There's certain things that you don't want to take out of the class. This is something that needs to be in the class where people can see, where you literally position somebody on stage. I watched Smokey Garrett do it years ago with Holly Servin, and they came and taught in our region, and they did it so incredibly well. And I've just literally followed that. And I think by showing them how easy it really is to follow it, should take a little of the pressure off.
Yeah.
I agree. I would never miss that part out. It just takes the stress out of it for a candidate because they can see, oh, okay, I could do that. When they see you do it, they think, oh yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
What would your recommendation be or words of wisdom for, let's say, a team leader that's going to hire um, a team leader from another office to be the operating partner? And they say, oh, I know this person. So and so has already validated their KPA. I'm not going to waste the time on that. I know they're a perfect fit. What would you say to somebody that is thinking about not doing the life story because they think they know the person? Go ahead,
If
Mark.
you I and we talked about this earlier. We did this a couple 3 years ago, and John Prescott, who many of you will know, John's been around many, many, many years. And I've known John and Holly since, oh gosh, 2005, I think, when I moved to
Mhm.
the Carolinas. So I knew John for just shy of 20 years. I've been in a car with John driving, 5 hours to Orlando to teach. John and I have, from time to time, maybe had an adult beverage together. I mean, we know each other. However, he was going to become an operating partner, and we went through the life story. And I have to tell you something. I learned more about John that I honestly did not know. So you
Mhm.
may think you know the person, This was put together by a lot of people. I mean, I'm not that smart, right? The people that put this together are a lot smarter than me. So don't try to outsmart them, because this was done with professionals that understand how to tie this all together. And John will even tell you, and I think he said that day when we did this, how powerful and meaningful it was to him, what it actually did for our relationship. And I have to tell you, John's probably one of the top, if not one of the top OP in my region right now. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we can. Here's the other thing: you earn the right to have tough conversations too with someone like that when you really get to know them.
Mhm. Yeah, it sets the stage. Yeah. It builds the relationship. I think that's the biggest thing it does, is it builds a relationship between you and the person that you're going to hire. But I've seen so many people make that mistake, Angela, that they've hired people and not done the CV because they felt that they knew them, and they've worked with me for ages, and or not with me directly, but in my world, and I know
Mhm.
them, like Mark said, and it's a recipe for, you're very, very lucky if it works out, because one of the things that we've come to know and we learn through CV is that it's not a one-sided thing. I'm not just looking at you and saying, well, I can check all these boxes. You know how to do this job, come and do it. It's
Mhm.
about, how are you going to interact with the team that I have here? How are we going to work together? How are you going to work with them? Are you going to speak to them the way I want you to speak to them? Are they going to have expectations of you? Can they have expectations of you? So if you miss out a piece like the life story, you're going to miss the opportunity to learn how they progressed through that part of their life. Or worse yet, if you just decide you're not going to do the whole thing because you know them, like many people do, you really shortchange yourself and your team.
Mhm. Very
Yeah.
true. Well, we're getting close to the end of the time. What would be your one mic drop moment to leave everybody with, that they could think about, or encourage them to do something different that they haven't done with the life story? What would be your best recommendation to them?
When those of you that have been to FSO, we'll go to FSO, and at the end of FSO, we'll say, what's the one thing that you would like to share? They'll get the experienced people, and they'll all walk up there to the mic, and they need to always say the same thing: follow the model, follow the model. And when you're sitting in there and you're brand new, you really don't have any idea what that means. It sounds so simple and all of that. But here's the wonderful thing about CV. It is that simple. It
Mhm.
is so that simple. You just have to make your mind up and be committed to do it, and to slow down and really follow the process that's beautifully scripted and laid out for you. That's it. And if you commit to do that, it's going to be a gift to you. It's going to be a gift to that person, and it's going to allow you to operate at a much higher level.
Mark, what are
Yeah,
your
the
parting?
words that come to my mind are just follow the model. Don't try to get creative. Don't just pick it up and follow it, and take the time to invest in the person. Gary
Mhm.
spells love Time. And this is the greatest way to demonstrate that you really care, right? Nobody cares how much you know. They only want to know how much you care. And the way to demonstrate that is to spend the time and go through the process. And hey, it takes time. But like I said, if you time block yourself, it's a funny concept. In the beginning of the year, I mean, we'll have my CV blocks. They'll be in for the whole year. I'll know when. I won't may not know who I'm doing in June, but there'll be a block in June when someone, raises their hand or comes available. We'll time block and we'll do it.
I love that you do that, Mark. I'm going to start thinking about doing that, saying I'm going to do X number this year. Good for you.
Yeah, I actually
Awesome.
just had them all scanned in because the papers they're huge. They stack up in my home
Yeah,
office.
they do.
Taking the office, I have them all scanned in, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I nailed that this year. That's good."
That's
great.
awesome. Thank you both so much for sharing your time with us and your knowledge. And we hope everyone watching will come back and see us again next month for CV Caffeine.